Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you. Who here is excited to be in person again? Yeah, so before I go into my presentation, I wanted to share with you a little more about my background. I moved to the US in 1996, and my first job was with Merrill Lynch. I started towards the middle of October, and as I walked to the office for the first day, I was so excited, but also very intimidated. I was looking at how everything looked so fancy. The walls were covered with wood. The furniture looked very expensive. People walking around with suits and ties. So I met my manager, and my manager showed me to my cubicle, where I got to log into the computer and start learning the financial software with the stock prices going up and down, green and red. As I was looking and learning, I saw that I got an email from the center executives, or the district executive. And he was encouraging everybody to dress up for Halloween as a team building event. I was very excited because I was new from the Middle East, and all I wanted was to dress up as a genie. We don't have Halloween events, and we don't have costume events where I grew up. So finally, I can be a genie. And I waited all day long, hour by hour, until the day was over, because I wanted to go to Party City and buy the perfect genie costume. And I did. I left work, I went to Party City, and I found really the best costume. It was purple with like baggy genie pants, gold button. It had this tall hat with some fabric coming down from it, but it was missing one thing, and it was the genie shoe. So I went to Macy's and I found a gold flat shoe that would match with the whole thing. I woke up the day of the event at 4 a.m. and to fix the makeup and to put thick eyeliner. I was at the office before 6:30. And it's in San Diego, so the market opens early. And I felt very, very lucky because as a new hire, I got to cover the front desk until the receptionist got to work at 8:30. So isn't it amazing? Like, I get to meet my new team members. So I sat there, fixed my genie costume, fixed my hat, and I was waiting for people to show up. The first person walked in, dressed up in jeans, cowboy boot, cowboy hat, and a plastic gun on his waist. I was it was great. He was representing his culture, and I was representing my culture. Then the next person walked in, dressed up in jeans, cowboy boot, cowboy hat, and a bolo tie. Interesting. Then the third person walked in, dressed up. She was dressed up in a jean skirt, cowgirl boot, cowgirl hat. And I thought to myself, I need to remember, being a cowboy and a cowgirl is so important for these Americans. And then the fourth person walked in, who is the executive of all of the district. And as he walked through the door, he looked at me as if he saw a genie appear in front of his eyes. And I had a feeling something wasn't right. So I went back to the email, I checked it. It had the right date and time and the information, team building event, but it had a phrase that I thought it was irrelevant. And it said, theme, Wild, Wild West. So I showed up to work first week in a very traditional conservative work environment, dressed up as a genie in a Wild, Wild West team event. And all I wanted was to blink and make myself disappear. So I just took my genie hat down and I waited until the receptionist got there, and I just went home crying. So now, 26 years later, I am in front of you talking about entrepreneurship. So let's see what the genie is going to teach you today. So today we're going to talk about how to thrive in difficult times. And we all, as you experienced and we heard from the speakers, it's been so tough for business owners, specifically for the last 2 years. It's tough without the pandemic. And can you imagine how it got harder and harder? I resigned from IBM in 2015. So I was in a global leadership role. And finally, I felt that I had the desire and the passion to start my business because I believed in this quote. And it says, the two most important days in your life are the day that the one you're born and the one you find out why. And it is the purpose. And that's when I resigned. It was that day, my last day with IBM, with the corporate world, was the day before my 40th birthday. And I felt like, wow, like finally, this is my gift to myself. And as if I was raising this baby, my business was still my baby, where I wanted to invest in it. I wanted to see it grow. I wanted to ensure that I'm showing it to the world and I'm being so proud of it. But then March 13th, 2020 happened. So if you remember, March 12th, President Trump gave an address. And after that, about the pandemic. And then on the 13th, I was getting one conference after the other, calling and canceling. To a point, by the end of the day, I thought, maybe I need to move in with my mom because it was just so difficult. So now when I think about this quote, I don't think it is the 2 days. It is the day we're born, the day we find out why, but there's a third day. And the third one is the day when we realize that everything we're working so hard for is going to be taken away from us. And that is the day, for me, was March 13th. And that is the day when we need to have a whole renewed purpose and a whole renewed desire to keep our business alive and to go above and beyond, to do things that we may not have considered in the past. So today I want to share with you very important messages, but they're also extremely basic, that we knew them before the pandemic, but now they're even more and more important with the world we're living in right now. In July of last year, I went to a conference and I was so excited to be there and to be in person. And one of the speakers was talking about the pandemic and he said, get used to it. It's not going to be the first or the last time with COVID. And then we know what happened with Delta, and then we have all the shutdown that happened in January all over again. So it is, how can we continue to grow our businesses in this difficult time? And how can we continue to thrive and to help the businesses, our babies, to continue to grow and to continue to be successful? So I'm going to share with you some messages. One of them, of course, is about relationships and our employees and what do we need to do to take care of the people we work with. And they don't have to be our employees, because some of you may not have employees, but it is our business partners, our suppliers. But then also we're going to talk about the brand and what is the brand promise that you have and what are you doing to continue to elevate it. So as we're starting, I'm going to share with you a story. As I was working for IBM in 2008, they moved me on an international assignment to Japan. And I was so excited to be there. It was a new country for me. I don't speak Japanese, new team, new manager, new everything. And I was one of 2 assignees in a team of over 300 team members. So my manager, Steve, and we were the only 2 assignees. As I walked into the office the first day, of course, I was very excited to meet Steve, my manager. I went to his office. He stood up. He's a tall guy with a big smile. He gave me a big hug and we started talking, and he shared with me that he has been dealing with a challenge with the team, that the team morale had been very, very low in our Tokyo office. And he has been thinking of many ideas to work on this morale and to improve it. And then he told me, wouldn't it be amazing if we climb Mount Fuji together? I thought we're going to go out and have some sake, but apparently like sushi maybe. But no, he wants to climb Mount Fuji. And immediately I I stopped responding because my brain paused, and the first thing that came to my mind was, oh God, please don't have him ask me to climb Mount Fuji. I never climbed a mountain before. I'm scared of heights and I'm not in shape. And the last thing I wanted was to climb a mountain as a team building event. And then he said, you're in, right? I don't know what happened. All I could hear were words coming out of my mouth. And I said, sure, I can do it. So he raised his arms in the air, and he was just so excited that I was going to join the team of the climbing Mount Fuji. And he said, we're going to climb it step by step. We're going to support each other and learn so many lessons in leadership that we're going to bring back to the Tokyo team members that didn't join. So the plan was that we would take 3 trains and a bus from Tokyo to the middle of the mountain. And when we hiked it, it didn't have snow. I just put this picture to make it more dramatic for you. So to the middle of the mountain. And then we would hike for about 6 to 7 hours until we get to the top. Oh, no, not the top. We get to the lodge that we would eat and sleep. And then we would just sleep for 4 hours, wake up at 2 a.m., and then hike for another 2 hours to 2 hours and a half until we get to the top. So we would be ready to see the most amazing sunrise. And then we would walk around the crater and then hike down, which should take another 5 to 6 hours. Like, how difficult would that be? Initially, we had over 40 team members interested. And the day of the hike, or the week of the hike, guess how many people decided to join? How many? Oh, not 2, not 5, not 2. 4. Steve, the boss, who planned the whole thing, he's the one who has the map, he's the one who has the reservation for the lodge, he has everything. Then we have Moto-san, who was retiring that month. And I was asking myself, why would he even want to climb the mountain? And then Okubo-san, who was new to the team, and I think Steve told him about the mountain of leadership and that he may advance in leadership if he climbs Mount Fuji. These 3 men and me. So the day of the event, we took the 3 trains and a bus. We got to the middle of the mountain. Everything went smoothly, so perfect. And then we started getting out of the bus to put our backpacks on that were filled with water bottles and oxygen bottles and layers of clothes and tons of energy bars. And as we were putting them on, Steve looked at us and he said, let's play a game. I thought we were playing a game already. And he said, let's see who gets to the top of the mountain first. And before we even could comprehend what he was talking about, he put his headphones on and he was on his way up the mountain. I was horrified and I automatically started looking for my bag so I can get back on the bus and go back to Tokyo, but the bus was gone. So now I had to start the hike. And Moto-san told me, don't worry, Dima-san, which Miss Dima in Japanese, we're going to hike it together. And I'm like, I don't want anyone to tell me we're going to hike it together. It's difficult to trust anyone at that point. And it wasn't like a regular hike where I was used to in the US, where, you know, like you're hiking and there's just nice scenery and butterflies once in a while you see them and birds. It's a volcanic mountain. Some of these rocks were just as big as a rock, and we had to continue to hike step by step, and it got harder. How many of you here enjoy hiking mountains? Are you scared to raise your hand? Don't worry, you can raise your hand. So what happens, the higher you get, the oxygen level goes down, you start feeling dizzy and nauseous and like a lot of horrible feelings. And as we were doing all of this, I was so impressed with my team. They made sure we stayed together. They were helping other people. And it was just so impressive to see how much they focused on ensuring that we continued to be successful as a team as we are hiking up the mountain. And then finally, we got to a point just walking from here to right there would take me like maybe half an hour. It was just so difficult. And even though before they would push me up the mountain, now I just needed to continue to walk. And that's when we decided that we needed to take a break. The entire time, I did not look beyond the mountain because, again, I'm afraid of heights. But finally, I sat down and I looked beyond the mountain and saw the most amazing view. We were on top of the clouds. It was right after sunset, and you can see the sky colors changing. It was just so gorgeous. Like, that moment made the entire torture that I've been going through worth it. But then I looked at my team at Moto-san and Okubo-san, and I saw that they were helping an older couple that looked maybe in their 70s or 80s. How many of you here are thinking, why are older couple climbing the mountain? So they consider Mount Fuji as a holy mountain, and they climb it as pilgrims, little kids, older people. But these older couple that they were helping, they were shivering, their lips were turning blue, they were in a very bad shape. And I saw my team give them water, give them our energy bars, even took off their jackets in a very cold weather and put it on them. So that delayed our hike until we made sure that these older couple, they were okay. We continued the hike, and we were just about 2 hours away from the lodge. All we could do was just imagine hot miso soup, steamed rice, and dried fish. Like, that was our only goal. That was the only thing that motivated us to continue going. And we kept taking one step at a time. Finally, we made it to the lodge. We were absolutely starving. And guess who I found at the gate of the lodge? Steve. He was waiting there. He was so excited that he made it there first. It's not his final goal, but he was there. So I told him, how is dinner? We're starving. And he said, oh, they had hot miso soup and steamed rice and dried fish. But the kitchen closed half an hour ago and there's nothing left. And I said, you saved us some, right? And as if it was like a new concept that he didn't think about, like, how difficult would it be to just take a plate and put some rice and fish? And he said, wow, I didn't think about that. So I felt like a volcano ready to erupt right in front of his face. But then my team pushed me aside, and we only had 2 energy bars left that we had to share between the 3 of us. That was our dinner. So we sat in the corner, we ate the energy bars, then everybody had to go to sleep. We were in this big lodge that hundreds of people were there, everybody sleeping right next to each other. And we were so exhausted that the moment we put our heads down, we heard a bang on a gong, which meant that it's 4 hours already and we needed to wake up. We woke up, and then Steve got ready the fastest, and he said, see you at the top. But by then we were used to not having a leader. We were used to supporting each other, helping each other, staying together, and continuing to help others on the journey as well. We took it one step at a time. Imagine, like 2 a.m. It was freezing cold. It was so dark. One step at a time until we finally made it to the top, where they have a temple for the goddess of fire, and that's the goddess of fire that everybody is climbing the mountain for. And of course, we saw Steve there. He was so happy he made it to the top first. But of course, we ignored him. We found a big rock where we sat there, the 4 of us, and we watched the most amazing sunrise. It was seeing the entire sky being initially all dark, black, and then you start seeing it becoming navy, and then the light of the orange and the red and the yellow at the top of the mountain, 350 degrees, nothing blocking the view. And then Moto-san and Okubo-san, once the sunrise came up, they started bowing to me and bowing to each other. And I'm like, I don't want to bow. I want an American hug. Who cares about cultural differences? And I started hugging these men, and they were just standing like this, like so uncomfortable. Like I most likely broke so many cultural rules. And then we looked to the side and we saw Steve to our side bragging to other hikers how he made it to the top first and how he was faster than what he initially expected from himself. So apparently his goal was not a team building event. There was something else that he had a goal for. We walked around the crater and we stopped at a post office. They have a post office just in case if you miss sending something before you hike, you'll be able to mail it from the top. And then we started the hike down the mountain. The hike down the mountain is a whole different talk. Maybe next time I'll share it with you because we got hit by a blizzard. We got separated. It was like a near-death experience. And the entire time we did not have our leader because our leader, his goal was to get to the end and to save himself first. So I learned so many lessons from the hike of Mount Fuji. And the main one is that the person who gets to the top first is not the leader. The leader is the one who walks with the team step by step from the bottom of the mountain to the top and back to the bottom. It is the person who has the human element, who cares about the team and want the best for them. So when I think about the pandemic and everything that was going on, how many organizations and how many leaders, they focused on themselves. They automatically started thinking about layoffs. They stopped paying their suppliers. They did not commit to their business partnerships and the contracts that they had because they wanted to save themselves. And even in good times, how many organizations, they want to get to the top. They want to be the best. But what they're doing they may get to the top, just like Steve, but do you think we will ever trust someone like Steve? Do you think we would want ever to work with someone like Steve? Absolutely not. So I want you to think about the relationships that you're building and what are you doing in order to build these relationships? Are you coming across that you just want to achieve the goal in good times and bad times, or are you truly walking with your team members? If you don't have team members, the suppliers, the business partners, the community partners, are you walking with them step by step to ensure that everybody gets to the top together and everybody is being safe? When I work with individuals and I coach them, I keep hearing messages about their organizations, their team, and the challenges that they have. And here are some of them, and I hear those every day. It's going to be tough to read from here. My job is not allowing me to be creative. I feel stuck. I don't see a career path. I do not feel appreciated or rewarded for my work. The management team is disconnected from the employees. They are subject matter experts, but they lack leadership and communication skills. My manager leads by fear. I'm always expected to always be available and workload is unbearable. Benefits keep getting taken away year after year, even if the company is doing well. How many of you heard some of those? How many of you experienced some of those? Yeah, and this is the challenge because many organizations, many individuals, they want to get to the top. And as a result, they're leaving so many people behind instead of taking them along. And now so many are shocked about the Great Resignation. I am not, because these has been going on over and over and over again for many years. And then finally now people got time to reflect and they're able to take the risks or challenging themselves to take the risks so they would not work with someone like Steve or an organization like Steve that they're just trying to get to the top. So what are you doing to engage your team? And again, the team is not just your employees. It is the community partners, your suppliers, everybody you're working with. And what are you challenging yourself to do to ensure that you're building trust, that you are, and it's so difficult. Like, it's easy to say the word build trust, but building trust takes so much of the intention, of being present, of walking with the team step by step and ensuring that they're safe, but also to pause and understand the challenges that the team members are experiencing, the challenges that our suppliers are dealing with and our community partners, and to be there to support them on their journey as well, because that's when we need them the most, in the difficult times and also in the good times. And also to help people realize that we're in this together. Because it's so easy to automatically start thinking about cutting costs, cutting headcount, cutting people. And it is so horrifying how these things happen. And then we worry that they're not loyal and not committed. Of course, they're not going to be. So one business owner I know, she has a small business. And when the pandemic hit, she talked to her team and she said, I want your help. We have two options. The business is being impacted a lot with the pandemic, so I can either let go some of you, or everybody gets a 20% pay cut, including myself. So she told them about herself. But when things get better, you'll go back to your original salary and I'll pay you back the 20%. This was so powerful because her team chose that everybody would get a pay cut so they can protect each other and ensure everybody stays having their salary and supporting their family. But what she truly did there is the sense of togetherness, that we're in this together. We're going to support each other. And this is a bond that's being built that nobody would be able to break in the future. Even if another company comes to them and offers more money, better benefits, people are not going to leave. They're going to stay and they're going to support each other. I remember in 2008, one company, they had huge orders before everything fell apart, huge orders to their suppliers. And then when things fell apart, they decided that they don't want these orders. They canceled everything, even though their suppliers already had the items ready to be shipped. And they decided that they were not going to pay. While another one, and the other one is Cisco Systems, where they paid every single supplier, even though they did not need the items that they did not, and they put it all in inventory that they did not use for a long time. But they knew that they committed to this. They committed to their suppliers. The relationship is so important, and to ensure that everybody is rising together to them is so meaningful. So when things go well, which supplier which company you think the suppliers are going to be more committed to? Number one or number two? And this is something we need to think about. So in order to continue to thrive beyond these difficult times, we need to start by thinking about the people. We need to think about the relationships and how can we support each other as we are rising and as we are climbing this difficult mountain of entrepreneurship in a pandemic, and ensuring that everybody gets to the top and everybody is safe back to the base. So what do you think about that? So this is a proverb that I love. It said, if you come to Japan and you don't, I can't read. If you come to Japan and don't climb Mount Fuji, you're a fool. But if you climb it more than once, you're even a bigger fool. So I'm done. Now it's your turn. And it's hilarious. When I give this talk, some people get motivated and they're like, I want to go climb Mount Fuji. And I'm saying, which part of my talk sounded so amazing that now I'm motivating you to go climb a mountain? Not sure. How many of you here would like to see photos from the hike? I don't see all the hands. How many of you would like to see photos from the hike? You don't want to see photos? Okay. Okay, here we go. So that is the first lesson about relationships and building trust and continuing to go up the mountain all together. So now the next one, before I share with you what I'm going to talk about, let me ask you, if I show you Coke, what does the brand of Coca-Cola represent to you? So what adjectives come to your mind when I show you Coca-Cola? Sugar? Olympics? Authentic? Did I get it right this time or still wrong? Santa Claus? The polar bear? What else? Refreshing? Smile. Okay. So when I show you another one, Pepsi. What comes to your mind? Super Bowl. Second? Did you say second? Okay, second to Coke. Did you say the first? First. Okay, so second and first. As long as it's not the third to something. What else? You're not as excited about Pepsi compared to Coke. So if I show you another brand, Crest, what comes to your mind when I show you Crest? Clean. So what does the brand represent to you? Longevity. I heard something there. Smile. Okay. Arm and Hammer. Strong. I heard somebody here. Muscles. So what does it do with the toothpaste? It's attacking the cavity. Yeah. What else?
Cleaning supplies.
Cleaning supplies in your mouth.
Yeah.
What else?
My third option.
Your third option? What's your first?
Crest and Colgate.
What's your second?
Crest and Colgate.
Okay. And then, what about hello? Who? Natural. So how did you know it's natural? Is it because of the box or is it because of you know it? You have a toothpaste by them? Okay. What does the brand of hello represent? Smile? Hmm? Safe? Okay. It's so hard to hear from so far away. So this could be the best toothpaste in the world, but if they are not promoting themselves, if the consumers don't know about it, they're not going to buy it. So now let me show you, before I go to the next, who wants Crest? Who wants Crest? Okay. You want to come and get it? I can throw it, but it may hit your head. And then we'll have a whole problem beyond brand. Who wants the Arm & Hammer? Nobody wants the cleaning product in your mouth? Okay. And who wants to try hello? You know it. Who wants to try hello? Come on. Okay. Catch it. Okay. So now Apple. What comes to your mind when you think about the brand of Apple? Do they want to be another computer company? Innovative, lifestyle. What else? Think different. So it's not another computer or laptop company. They want to be more. What about Tesla? Innovative. The future. Do they want to be another car manufacturer or do they want to be more? What about Nordstrom's? High end. Do they just want to be another company that sells clothes and nice shoes, or do they want to be more? So companies, they focus so much on their brand. and they spend a lot of money to understand what does the brand represent, what is their brand promise. So much money, so much time. So this way, when you look at a brand like Crest, or you look at Arm & Hammer, or Hello, or Coke, or Pepsi, or any of those, certain messages are coming to your mind, and they want to shape these messages. And that's why it's so important for us to think about these things and to reflect about the messages that your brand is giving to your customers and your potential customers. So what about you? What messages do you want your brand to represent when your customers or somebody in the community is thinking about your company? What words do you want them to say? Trustworthy. Quality. Charitable. Reliable. Fun? With a hat and a bow tie. Yes? Consistent. Absolutely. So now it's a matter of what are you doing every day to ensure that you are working on this brand, to ensure that you are delivering to the brand promise that you have for your clients. So after I came back from Japan, IBM moved me back to North Carolina, and I was managing a team of engineers, a global team of engineers, but I somehow did not like my job. And I wanted something different, and I just did not know how and what to do. So on a Saturday night, I was researching for an executive coach, someone to help me update my resume so I can go find another job. And I did. I researched, I found someone, she responded immediately on a Saturday night, and Monday morning we got to meet. And I said, I just need you to help me find another job. Here's my resume, just updated, and I just need to leave. And she said, sure, we'll work on all of that, but first we need to work on your brand. I never heard of a brand before. What does that mean? What is my brand? And she started asking me questions. And the questions were, what words do people use to describe you? What do you bring to work that others do not have? How do you differentiate yourself? What are you known for? How do others perceive you? And how do you communicate your brand? And I was sitting there. I have my MBA, managing global teams, working around the world, and I did not know the answers for these questions. Nobody asked me these questions before, and I never paused and reflected about my brand. I just thought that if I did a great job, worked day and night and on the weekend, and I was always accessible, that is enough. And I realized that was not enough, because if I did not know what my brand represents, it's going to be difficult for me to shape how others perceive my brand. So I went home and I cried, and because that was the only thing I could do at that time. But it took over a year for truly us, my coach and I, to figure out the answers for these very difficult questions. And the more I was digging deep, the more I started to understand what I truly value and how I want to be perceived and how I am different. And that opened so many doors that eventually I resigned from IBM to start my business. Some of you may be thinking, but those are about us as a person. What about the business? And I shifted the questions and I added your company instead of your company. So what do people use to describe you? How are you different from your competitors? And when somebody wants to work with you, what is the brand promise that they're getting? And how are you continuing to communicate your brand? How are you better than your competitors? I work with some of my clients, and I'll tell you about two. One is a dentist, and she wants to grow her business, but she could not answer any of these questions. And she's like, I am a great dentist. I am passionate about my clients. I want to make sure, my patients, I want to do the best for them. And I said, of course, that is so important, but that's truly like 50% of the equation. The other 50% is how you are reaching them. How are you defining your brand? How are you different? Because all the dentists may say the same thing. Another company is I feel so bad for them. They're a small family-owned office supplies company. And of course, with Amazon, their business has been impacted a lot for many years. They just don't want to change. They want to continue the legacy. They don't want to change anything. And I said, but what about the answers for those? And they could not answer them. And they just kept saying, the value that we bring is that we deliver the products to our clients. And I'm like, yeah, Amazon, they do the same thing too. So that's why it's so important as business owners, regardless of how big your company is. If you're new, if you have maybe 100 employees, it doesn't matter. What matters is for us throughout our journey to truly be intentional in understanding who we are as a person, but also our company. What does the company represent, and what can we do in order to continue to communicate it? And this is so important, especially with a world that constantly keeps changing. And especially as we are working, now we have so much more millennials and Gen Zers, everybody younger than 38 years old. I see a lot of millennials, and I love millennials, but the millennials' purchasing habits are very different than the prior generations. What they're looking for is very, very different. And the question is, what are you doing in order to attract the millennials, the Gen Zers? What are you doing to understand what is important for them? And as a result, to continue to evolve your brand and communicate these messages in order to attract them. So the brand promise is what we talk about. This is what people will be able to get from our brand if they buy from us and if they stay as a customer. And I want to share with you about 2 experiences that were very shocking for me, and I don't think I'll be able to ever recover from them. One is an airline. So usually when we hear about from an airlines, they usually say our most when you get on the flight, I'm trying to remember the phrase, like their focus is to ensure that we're safe. Right? Have you heard them when you get on the flight? They're like, our goal is to make sure that you're safe and you're comfortable, but safe comes first. And after the pandemic, around July, I had to take a flight. I had a family emergency and I needed to fly. And I was so horrified because it's still so new. Nobody knew how it was transmitted. It was just such a mess. And I got on a flight and they had social distancing at the gate. But then when I got on the flight, this is how it looked like. And this is an actual picture I took. It was packed. So packed that like the middle seat was packed. Everybody, like it was a full flight in July, just few months after like the pandemic became such a big deal. And I felt very sad and very hurt because this is the company that promises safety. And they talk about that their goal is to ensure that the passengers are safe. But really what they showed me, the message that they were sharing with me, that their goal is not that. Their goal is the bottom line. And I know it's difficult. It's very difficult for airlines to survive during these difficult times. But this is the time when the brands are tested. And this is the time when we're able to truly stick to our brand promise and ensure that our customers know that we are there to support them. We are there to ensure that they're safe, that money is important, but money is not going to be on top of their health. How many of you've been on flights like this? And I know now it's normal, but at the beginning, how many of you experienced that? How did you feel? Scary. Yeah, very scary. Where other airlines like Delta and Southwest, they made sure that they're committed. They talked about that their focus is to ensure that that their middle seat is empty, that they're cleaning. And to me, this is a brand promise that I know that yes, they want to make money, but they have my best interest in mind. Then after a few months later, I was flying again on a different airline, and I covered their name here so I would not show you what it is, but maybe you know which one it is. So I was flying on a different airline and the flight was so late. It was at 10 p.m. That's when we took off. And the plane was like 2/3 of the plane was empty. And of course, I feel bad for them, but I feel so good for myself because I can get more space. So in my row, there was a person next to me, and the rest of the plane was so empty. So the flight attendant came by, and after we took off, I said, "Can I go to the front? Like, can I go to the row in front of us so this way we can spread out?" And she responded, and again, the flight was so empty. She responded, "People pay more to get these seats. You did not pay that price, so you need to stay where you are." And it was so shocking for me because, again, like, she would not lose anything. The airline would not lose anything by having me go to the front seat. And the message there is, what are we doing to empower our employees to represent our brand? Because if we want, yes, safety, but we also want comfort. And in this situation, I would have been so much more comfortable being in the row just in front of me that was empty instead of just sitting and just looking at an empty row. I understand that one. And it wasn't even first class. It was, the comfort where you're paying like $40 more. And it was something that helped me realize that it's not just us as business owners and what we're doing. It is what are we doing to empower our team, to focus on our clients and ensure that they are truly understanding what is the brand promise and supporting them as a result. There's something in Louisiana. I live in Louisiana now, and there's a word that I love, and it is lagniappe. You know what lagniappe means? Anyone here knows what lagniappe? It is a little extra, something extra. So, it is similar to like the baker's dozen is 13. That you're giving just something little extra. It's not costing tons of money. To the airline, it would not cost them for me to go to the seat in front of me, but it is a lagniappe. It's something extra that I'm getting that's going to connect me so much more with their brand and make me even more and more of a loyal customer or passenger. So think about what is the lagniappe, the little something extra that you can give to your clients, and you can support your employees and empower them so they would be able to do the same. So, and it's interesting now with the world we're living in, 76% of buyers, they make purchases based on what the brand stands for. So with that airline, if they stand for just the bottom line, they lost me. I'm going to go find someone else. But think about, what does your brand stand for? And if you don't know, it is hopefully you're going to go and reflect on that and communicate it with your team as well. And some of the things that we're seeing more and more, I mentioned about the millennials and Gen Z, it is the corporate responsibility. It is giving. It's something beyond just the bottom line, where like with Tom's, this shoe, it doesn't look the most attractive one, but the company does such a great job because they promise that every time you're buying a pair, they're going to donate a pair. So it is beyond just the bottom line. If a person buys a pair, they know that they're doing something good. This other one is Rothy's, and Rothy's, they take water bottles and they turn them into shoe, and they turn them into purses, and now they have a whole line for men, and they're doing so good, where these shoes like $150 and they're not even made of leather, they're just made of water bottles, and people love them. I love them and I buy them because every time I'm wearing them, they represent something bigger than the brand. So what does your brand represent, and what more can you do to link your brand to something so meaningful for your customers? This is a company in Baton Rouge, and the CEO, he supports women, and he is supporting doing a lot of fundraising for breast cancer awareness. So it is an IT company. It has nothing to do with breast cancer awareness, but that is something that is important to him because he believes in it, but he uses this information to communicate something bigger than himself and the company. And this is another one. They're an advocate advertising company, but they talk about diversity and inclusion. And now this is such an important topic. After 2 years ago with the murder of George Floyd, our customers want to hear about the value we're bringing to the community, that how we are different beyond just the bottom line, beyond just saying, buy my product, it is the best. Maybe not. Maybe I can Google and I can find 700 other people that can do similar things. So it's not just about the bottom line. It is about changing the world to the better. And that is, how can you link it? How can you have your brand? And I know it sounds very difficult. And some of you may think this has nothing to do with my business. Can I just do my business and not worry about all of this? Well, not in the world we're living in, because 1.4 trillion is the spend of millennials in 2020. And this does not include Gen Zers. Gen Zers are age 7 to 23. And there's so much money, and without generalizing and without putting people in bucket, everybody I work with that are millennials, they want the corporate responsibility. They want where they're buying from. They want to be able to use their money to support initiatives and causes that they believe in. And that is something we need to keep in mind as we are working. So think about what you're doing in order to continue to elevate your brand. So if somebody is thinking about your company, what is the first thing that's coming to them? Is it the bottom line? Is it just you do a good job and you're doing great quality and you're committed? Or is it something more? And what is this more? So now let me share with you one final story, but I wanna see what did you think about the brand? Is this something that you can implement? Is this something you can start thinking about? Good. I see you there. Are we almost done? Can I have 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So now let me share with you a story about myself. I feel like I told you a lot of stories about myself, but this one is when I was in the Middle East growing up. And when I was 5 years old, my grandmother was baking for my birthday, and she was making Middle Eastern pastries. I watched her as she was kneading the dough and putting all the ingredients of the flour and the oil and a pinch of salt and water and the yeast. And she was kneading the dough. And I was so fascinated as a 5-year-old looking at it and seeing the dough rising. So the more she pushed it down, the more it would rise, and it would rise higher. And I just could not understand what was going on. And then she looked at me because she saw me being so fascinated. She told me, the more you knead the dough, the more you push it down, it will rise again, even higher. Because she said it has the wild element within, and it is unstoppable. So I grew up with this image, continued to be in my mind, and I keep thinking about how we could be like a dough, where the more we're being pushed down, the more we're needed, and we're made so small that we have the power to rise. And maybe we're pushed down by expectations of our community or family, or it could be a pandemic. And we all have a choice of either staying small and accepting of continuing to stay small, or to realize that we all have the wild element within, and that we have the power to rise. And just like with the dough, it has certain ingredients that are important to be mixed together in order to rise. The same thing with us. It is, in order to rise, we need to question the norm. We need to look for ways that we can continue to serve our customers. We need to bring the team along. We need to build relationships. We need to focus on our brand and what we are doing to continue to fulfill the brand promise and make it even more than just the bottom line. And to realize that we're going to be pushed again. So it's not like a one time we're being pushed and we're going to rise. We're going to be pushed again. There could be more pandemic coming up. There could be, we're dealing now with all the fears related to the war. There's always going to be something that's going to push us down, but we always need to remember that we have the wild element within, and that's the one that's going to help us rise and to rise higher and higher. And this is the goal. It is to continue to rise higher and higher. So think about what are your ingredients? What is important for your business in order to continue to rise and to be able to be unstoppable. So this is my grandmother and me in Jordan. And I don't know who bought this shoe, the red shoe, but the more the dough is needed, the more it's pushed down, it will rise again, even higher. And that is the message I want you to leave with, is what are the ingredients that are needed? Who do you need on your side? Who do you need to partner with? How can you work more with your customers in order to help you grow your business? What can you do to support your community? What can you do to make your brand even stronger than just the bottom line? Because we all are unstoppable. Each one of you, you're unstoppable. We survived the most difficult 2 years, and we're going to be able to continue to fight for our business. So this way, when you learn something from a genie in a wild, wild west, you know that she's not going to run away and hide and cry. None of us are going to hide. We're going to show up, and we're going to continue to commit, and we're going to continue to serve. So now whenever you're thinking about this quote, it's not just the 2 days, it's 3 days. The third one is the day when everything we've been building could be taken away from us. And what can we learn from that? What can we do in order to ensure that we're holding to it and we're continuing to not to let it go, but to grow it? So this is my contact information. It was such a pleasure spending time with you. I loved getting to observe all the wonderful faces, and I hope we stay connected. Thank you.